Yeah, we'll have to talk about the. I know you put them on YouTube, but then we didn't. I don't know what happened. I remember I searched for it one time, but didn't see it. But yeah, I don't
You
know.
search for them on YouTube?
I looked for it on you, but I don't know if it was like if we got pulled down or like if there was like there's another group that is actually famous and does this and has like a similar name to us. And so whenever I searched for us, it was hitting on them, and that was all I could see. So
Oh, yeah. No, there's like 5 up right now.
yeah,
Um,
are we viral
all
already? Everybody loves
all
us.
of all of them have 0 views except for 2. 2 of them have, or one of them has 2 views. The other one has 8 views.
Hey,
No likes, but no dislikes. So
hey,
Hey,
look at that, right in the middle.
right in the middle.
The worst place to
right.
be, because if they hate you, it's good, and if they love you, it's good. They don't
It's
care.
the, it, there's these
Yeah,
guys that are
yeah.
you should know. Where's ours?
Yeah, the you should. Then those two idiots, like their whole thing is that they're both stupid, and they ask each other questions, and then they're like, "What would you rather get bitten by, a black mamba or a leatherback turtle?" And one guy's like this, and the other guy's, "That's insane." And then they just like bicker about it. That's their whole bit.
Doesn't
It's not
sound
bad.
like something I would want to watch.
I mean,
Well,
they're
they
stupid
get
enough
views,
that
man.
it's kind of funny. They get a lot of views. They're very, very popular. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they're very good at what they do. And you get like, I think it's all a lot of it's just like an act, right? But it's good. It's good stuff.
Well, to some degree, I feel like it's scripted, and at
Oh
certain
well, I
points,
mean, I think it's one of those things. It's like when you do improv comedy, or if you're doing like a debate. Like the whole point of the show is to be entertaining. So you're like, let's choose between these two things. You take one side, I'll take the other, but we're just gonna be ridiculous about it, right? Like that's just the whole intent of what they do, and they just make shit up as they go.
right? Well, their thumbnails are also catchy too, right? Like they have legit thumbnails, and
No, they're like a legitimate, they do
right.
this for a living type podcast, and yeah, they're good.
Full time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the high production, like they're really good at what they do.
Yeah, I still can't find ours. You don't know what's one of our podcast names?
Podcast 1.
Like that's what only one on YouTube. Only one on YouTube named Podcast One.
Podcast 2.
Nice.
Here, I can send you guys a link. I'll send you a link.
Oh yeah.
Okay. First
Send me the
podcast,
link.
title to clown.
Let's see. Your videos. Okay, yeah, published. One of them has a copyright because we shared a video. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Here, let me. Wonder if I can just send you a link to our
I remember you
channel. That's
sent me a
probably
link one time. I was
Yeah.
able to access it, but like I was wondering if it was like private or like not shared publicly or something.
uh,
But I mean, it said you had 8 views, so unless
no,
one of us
it's
watching it,
visibility is public. So,
Mm.
Sweet.
I don't even know how
view
8
channel
people.
on YouTube. Here we go.
It has to be
Okay.
like somebody, our mom or somebody has to be watching that. Because
Yeah.
I know it is.
Do you guys want it in a text message or in here? The link.
Wherever is fine.
Okay. Let's do studio chat.
Ooh,
Paste. Oh, you bitch. There it is. Okay, that's our channel.
beautiful.
Add some views to it.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta get it
Nice.
going. But yeah, let's jump into it. It's been a while since we've been
Kick us
doing these
off there.
things, and
World is on
trying
fire,
to.
man. There's lots to talk about.
We are
Yeah,
at war.
it. We've been seeing
There's
it for a
been
while now,
no
but
official declaration of war by Congress.
What's that?
There's been no official declaration of war by Congress, so technically we are not at war.
Yeah, because they didn't go through Congress.
well, they haven't since like forever.
Yeah.
Hold on, there's
He's
this
not
funny.
the first president to do this.
Well, no.
Doesn't make it right.
Well, no, but hold on. Before we go super down the road, I want to show you guys this. because I saw this and it's just perfect for like it's literally like a skit somebody did about is it war, and it's like a game show. So hold on, let me.
Wait, people are trying to say this isn't war?
Well, it's tech. So we'll just watch the thing,
Not
and then
yet.
we'll talk on the back half of this. Hold on. All right, you guys see the screen?
Yep.
All right, there you go.
No audio. Oh, there we go.
No audio. Can't hear.
No
me.
audio. I don't think he can hear us. No audio.
Hold on. Stay with me. Yeah, entire. Oh, that's why. Defaults when you change a setting. Here we go. All right, hold on. There we go again.
Welcome back
Round
to
two.
Is It War? World War One. War. Correct. World War Two. War. Correct. The Vietnam War. War. Oh, I'm sorry, Carl. That was a congressionally authorized counteroffensive. Don't worry, we get right back on track with the Korean War. War. No, that was police action. No, they had tanks and stuff. Well, the police have tanks now, don't they, Carl? Okay, the first and second Iraq War. War. They identify as military action. It's a bit like pronouns, except we kill people. All right, how about Libya? War. I'm sorry, that was kinetic action, not a war. Venezuela. Well, it was an act of war, I think. No, I'm sorry, that was a law enforcement operation, not a war. Iran. It's a war. We're doing war things. No, not war things. Preemptive retaliatory de-escalation action. No, that's not a thing. All right, judges. Okay, how about the war on terrorism? War. No, it was a coalition-led conditional operation. How about Afghanistan? Afghanistan was the war on terror. No, I'm sorry. That was a pre-authorized defense stabilization initiative. Okay, can somebody tell me the rules here? War on poverty, Carl. Well, poverty? That's not even a thing. I'm sorry, I hate to do this to you. It was a trick question. We don't have poverty in the United States. The Dow went up to 50,000. Couldn't even get that high. Amazing. Don't even worry about the Epstein files. War on Christmas. No, that's not a war. It's a war for the soul of the nation and whether or not I can wish my children Merry Christmas. Okay, you know what? I quit. I don't want to do this anymore. Today's magical phrase, Carl, you just became a United States Congressman. Congratulations, Representative Carl. Merry Christmas. It's March. Well, okay, Happy Hanukkah.
Fitting.
Yeah, it's a good intro there for sure about like the difference of war, quote unquote, right? Like technically we haven't had an actual war for a very long time,
Yeah.
which is an interesting thing. You know, the way we've kind of gotten around it, right? Like if you're at war with the government, you're technically supposed to go, but like Trump has, all presidents have, what is it, 30 days? Frank, you have like
60
from
days.
essentially, you have a leeway period of bombing whoever the fuck you want for whatever reason you want. And
Almost.
it's
Yeah, pretty
legal
much. 60 days. I
until
believe.
the 30-day mark. And then at the 30-day mark, you're technically supposed to go back to go to Congress and ask them to like approve additional actions.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of workarounds there too, right? Like a lot of the way they got away with it with, you know, Afghanistan and some of these places is like, well, you're only at war if you actually, you know, admit that government is a valid government. If you think that government isn't valid, then you can't go to war because it's not a valid government, which is like, it's sort of like a catch-22 funny thing where it's like, you know, a good way to kind of skirt the rules for sure. But yeah, it's
I thought it
been
was 60
every
days, not 30 days.
60. I know some amount of days that they have before they can.
That's a lot of time. I mean,
It's war. You see how many
Yeah.
feels a
bombs
lot
are going
longer
off?
for Iran than it does for the U.S. I'll tell you that.
Well, I mean, yep, that's kinetically true. Financially, it's painful for us too.
Yeah.
But and you know, let's not minimize too. You know, I mean, what's the tally up to now? 17 soldiers, American soldiers dead. I think was the last time I saw. Might be higher or lower by now, or based off not memory.
Thought it was like 12 or something because it was the recent 6 or something for that plane
Yeah.
that was refueling that crashed in Iraq.
Yeah, there was the refueling plane. There was a drone, I think, that struck as well. There's a couple other things here and there.
Yeah.
It's war.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah.
If,
Unofficially, it's war.
if
Right.
it talks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? That's the fun
I'm sure
standard. But
Iran probably feels like it's war.
yeah. Well, I mean, Frank, you seem like you might have an angle or a way you want to start talking about this in particular. So I don't know if you want to lead off with stuff, or if you want me to jump in on timeline stuff. I mean, if you were going to talk about Iran, the current conflict in Iran, because you could talk about a lot of different angles of it. I think it's important to maybe start with like a basic timeline, or where we think, not a full timeline, because obviously you'd have to go back into like the history of Iran and the setup of like the Arabian
No.
country and the split and all that stuff. And I don't want to go back that far. I don't think it's super useful, but
I don't think it's necessary. I think one of the bigger questions that a lot of people have is, the big why.
well, but
It's
even why I think is important. Like, so for me, like if I'm picking out a time period here to examine as like, let's start looking at this from a certain point. To me, the most interesting point, and I think one of the things that spiraled into the current conflict, the recent conflict, has been the nuclear deal that was established by Barack Obama and then pulled out of by Donald Trump. And since then, everything has devolved. And so, I mean, like, talking about the original nuclear deal that was pulled out of, I think is useful to the conversation. Its benefits, its deficiencies, right? I think that's a legitimate point to start talking about. And so I don't know how much you guys know about the first Iran nuclear deal, kind of what it was set up to do, what people didn't like about it, what people did like about it, that sort of thing.
No, I don't know
No.
about it.
not much.
So I don't know a ton either, but from what I do know, right? The Obama administration, along with the like Nuclear Council or something, UN, a bunch of different groups, organizations, entered into an agreement with Iran that they would allow inspectors into their nuclear sites, that they would only enrich uranium up to, I think it was like 3%, 3.6, something along those lines. And that they would do that and maintain kind of all the specific criteria of the deal up until 2030. And then in 2030, the deal was essentially supposed to like end, right? And the restrictions and requirements were supposed to go away. The people that had a problem with it, Donald Trump being kind of chief among them, especially once he came into office, was that this deal did not address their ballistic missile program. The deal did not address their funding of terrorism and general action within the region. And then ultimately, by the time 2030 rolls around, it fades away and Iran can kind of do whatever it wants. And so people that did not like the deal said that it was flawed, and that like eventually it would just allow Iran to kind of amass its ability to like kind of covertly do things and build itself up during this reprieve. And then 2030 would hit, and then these people say that Iran would have then immediately essentially launched into a sprint to try to get to a nuclear bomb. And from
But
what
they were already in a sprint from day one.
well, let's talk about the deal first, and then we can start talking about that. But so they for years maintained 3% enrichment. They did not increase 3% enrichment. You can't make a nuclear bomb with 3% enrichment. So from the deal, they didn't break the deal. They were maintaining the 3% enrichment. To this time, Iran has never stated they were going to build a bomb, right? They were, it's hearing publicly, they have never stated. The Ayatollah announced publicly, they call it like a fatwa, which is like a religious edict, right? And he stated that use of nuclear bomb, I believe use of nuclear bomb was like immoral and shouldn't happen. Now, granted, that's all public speaking. It's very different from private, and many people believe that that wasn't the full story, right? And we can go into a lot of that and a lot of like the regional conflict and the other nuclear powers in the area. But if you're looking at the deal to start with, the deal was entered into in good faith by Iran and America and the UN and the nuclear board, and it was restricting Iran's ability to enrich uranium, and they were adhering to all of the principles up until the time Donald Trump came to office. Donald Trump, if you remember, ran on many things, many ridiculous, bombastic claims of how much better he could do everything than everyone else, as he always does. One of them, chief among them, was the Iran deal, and said that at its core it was broken. I think was one of his quotes. Which he was not alone in saying this. There were many people that did not like the deal, and that essentially he ran saying he would remove us from the Iran deal, and that he would then cut a better deal because he's the deal maker. He can deal with anyone. It's just the fact that these other people are stupid that was like the reason why we couldn't get a better deal, and everyone's inept, and the only person who could ever cut a deal as glorious as him is him. And that's why you need to elect him, because he's not like these other presidents. He will get the deal done that's going to be the best done and avoid war, because we don't want to go to war because war is bad. Like that was massively important to his first election and his second election. You talk about like in the second election, you can talk about Ukraine. You can talk about other conflicts. You can talk about the way he talked about it and how he would resolve all of these conflicts. And he made good on his promise when he came into office in what was it, 2016 was the first year of his office, right? For the first term, I believe. I could be wrong about that. My timing is terrible. But he comes into office. I don't know. Yeah, I think it was 2016. I don't know how long after he was in office that he pulled out of the deal. But I know it wasn't a tremendously long time. And Iran, actually, even after we pulled out of the deal, Iran continued to adhere to the deal up until, and this is where it get a little squishy for me, but I know they were either staying at 3% or they might have gone up to 6% after Trump pulled out of the deal, which means none of that was binding anymore, right? And Iran went up to like 6 or something. I want to say it was maybe 6. And then stayed there until like Joe Biden came back in, and I believe Joe Biden was trying to re-enter into the Iran nuclear deal, was in talks. It was not going well. They were not doing a great job of it from what I can understand, but they were attempting it. And then, very interestingly enough, they were attempting to enter into the deal again when Israel sabotaged the Iranian nuclear facility. And that was in 2017? Maybe you could look that up, Frank. I don't know if you can, but I know Israel.
Looking some stuff up here.
What's that?
Looking some stuff up here. I see that. Well, I asked ChatGPT to give me a specific timeline on Iran's enrichment timelines, essentially, right? And I said, take it from the very beginning. When did they first start enrichment? Number one, early nuclear program. This was 1950s to 1970s. Iran begins a civilian nuclear program. U.S. support under Adams for peace. Next one, a centrifuge technology acquisition in 1980s, 1990s. Iran secretly begins acquiring gas centrifuge technology for the nuclear smuggling network run by the Pakistan scientist Abdul Qadir Khan, something.
He got it from the
okay. Third main timeline point is secret enrichment facilities built 1990s, early 2000s. Fourth is first confirmed uranium enrichment in 2006. April 2006, Iran announces its successful enrichment uranium for the first time at the Nance pilot enrichment plant. Levels were about 3.5% at that point in 2006. And then 2005, higher enrichment begins in 2010. February 2010, Iran begins enrichment uranium to about 20%.
What percentage do they need in order
60,
be
I
able to
think,
make
is
nuclear
the
weapons.
90% for weapons
I
grade.
think they can make a nuclear bomb at 60, but like 90 is better. But they could make
Right.
some nuclear bombs.
Yeah. So 2010, Iran begins enrichment uranium to about 20% for research reactor. And then 2015, 2018, enrichment capped. That's when we actually started.
That was the
Let's say,
deal.
under
was
the Joint Comprehensive Plan Action, enrichment capped at
Iran nuclear deal.
3.67, right? Centrifuges limited, stockpile capped at 300 kilograms. The agreement
Mhm.
began implementation in 2016.
Mhm.
Post-deal escalation, after the U.S. withdrew from the deal, 2018, 2019 enriches to 4.5, 2021, Iran enriches to 20%, 2021 begins 60%, the highest
Mhm.
level in its history, and then
So 2021 is the interesting point because I believe, and you can look this up and try to confirm what I'm saying, but I believe so when they were at 20%, even 20% is not enough to make a nuclear bomb, right? It's more than 3%. And it was so a lot of things that Iran has done in the past, even some of their I almost feel like I have to say this to begin with to have the conversation because I feel like it's gonna come up with Frank in general. Anyways, I like the I will clarify my position to begin with, right? Which is that, I have zero love for the Iranian government. It is a horrifically repressive government. It is a religious extremist government, which I have a huge problem with religions across the board. There's I shed zero tears for the death of Ayatollah Khomeini. Like I don't think that the world is probably a better place with him gone. That's 100% true. But I do think that and in the current conflict, I fully am hopeful that Trump is being led by people who are smart and that they're going to come through this to the other side with a more peaceful Middle East, with a less aggressive world that we can start building towards peace. I hope for all of those things. I have tremendous difficulty believing anything Donald Trump says and his administration. And there are many things I think that are worth looking at historically, contextually, in terms of Iran, what they are, what they've done, and what they continue to do. So I prefacing kind of everything I say with that general statement. What I wanted to say about Iran is that when they have conducted some of their military attacks, right? So even like when they launched, when Israel went in and started bombing Gaza and then they started attacking Lebanon after the horrific attack by Hamas on Israel. And I think it might have even been after the bombs. I don't remember the timeline exactly, but essentially the first time Iran shot that big ass salvo of ballistic missiles at Israel. I don't know if you guys remember watching that live or seeing the images of it, but it was the first time they had like hundreds of ballistic missiles coming in at Israel. They knew that Israel was more than likely going to knock every single one of those out of the sky, right? Like yes, they were like attacking, and yes, they were hoping to kill Israelis, but it also is common knowledge how good Israelis' air defense systems are, right? So Iran takes kinetic actions often as how they seem to view it and is a diplomatic pressure point, right? They're attempting to try to strong arm a solution in their favor. And so they do things, generally speaking, when they are doing some sort of aggressive, overtly attacking type maneuver, it comes along with some sort of political end that they're trying to do. Terrorism being terrorism, right? They've supported mass killings all over the world. They've killed their own people and all of that. But like when we look at the way Iran behaves, right? That's been kind of their MO since the beginning, right? And publicly they've gone through great pains to never step on certain areas, right? So I think it's just interesting to point that out as we kind of get into the more nitty gritty of the conversation. That's been my read on a lot of what Iran does. Again, not justifying it. It's horrific. It causes death. It causes terrible problems in the Middle East, but it is something that I think is worth kind of noting. But when Iran was capped at 3% with the nuclear deal, right? And they were staying there. They were in adherence. The nuclear commissions, everybody said that they were in compliance with the caps and all of those things. It wasn't until Trump pulled out that they started increasing their enrichment. And then on top of that, even though they went up to, I think it was like you were saying, 20%.
That was in 2010, before the whole treaty. and everything.
Read the timeline again. But I don't think it was not 2010 or 2010. Yes, they were up 20%. But then they had 2015, the deal came in and they capped it at 3%, right? And then they stayed at 3% up until we pulled out of the deal. And then they went up to 6%. And they were staying at 6% up until they jumped to, or maybe even to 20%. But essentially, one of those very large jumps where they started accelerating quickly into like the 60% range was directly after the sabotage that was done by Israel on the nuclear facilities in Iran. That was also during the time when Biden was trying to re-enter the deals and cap the enrichment, right? At the time, it was a big black eye to Biden and to the White House because they were very publicly trying to get Iran back in the box, and they were very publicly trying to get Israel to tamp itself down. And Israel, according to the Biden administration, according to everyone, they did not know this was happening. They did not know that Israel was going to do it, and they did it. And the immediate reaction was to pull out of the deal even further, right? The negotiations went even more sour. Trying to get Iran back into 3% was not going to happen. And they ended up jumping up. I think that was the point where they went up to like 60% enrichment at that point, right? So we can speculate, and granted it's speculation, right? But Israel, I think it's a reasonable read that Israel always hated this deal because Israel has the most stake in all of this, right? If there's a country that Iran hates, it's not actually America, it's Israel. Like Iran hates Israel, has always hated Israel. And
They call America,
but they conflate. But if you look at
and little big Satan and little Satan,
the great Satan.
Yeah, but if you look at who Iran attacks, where the attacks come from, and where the violent
range.
No, hold on. But before we go into the derangement, right? Like Iran and Israel have the biggest problem. If Iran had a nuclear weapon, the biggest target would not be America. Iran is not going to fire a nuke at America. That's never been something that anyone really is afraid of. What they're afraid of is Iran getting a nuke into Israel or launching from Lebanon or even Iran and getting a nuclear weapon into Israel, because that would be the target. We all know that would be the target. What I just said about the ballistic missiles is kind of important to understand because, like, again, the capability of shooting all this shit down is ridiculously high. So the idea that Iran could put one warhead and fire it at Israel and it would get through is almost unthinkable. But besides that, even not to go down that path, like Israel has a legitimate fear that a nuclearly equipped Iran would lead to a conflict that would involve nuclear weapons against Israel. Also interesting to note that Israel has nuclear weapons, supposedly. They've never admitted this, and neither have we, but Israel supposedly does have nuclear weapons and has them in the country. Widely believed to be true, if it's not been like officially stated. So Israel has nuclear weapons, Iran with nuclear weapons. The idea is that like that is a conflict that could escalate rapidly, right? And Israel has every right in the world to point out the fact that Iran has been trying forever to destroy them, and there's all kinds of religious reasons that are equally important to kind of talk about. But ultimately, the read on that is not hard to make, that Israel did not want the deal and sabotaged it, that they intentionally attacked the silos because it's a legitimate target, and it had the knock-on effect of killing the negotiations with Iran to put them back in the box 3%, which escalated the conflict, which is what many of not all the Israelis, and I don't even like saying Israelis, the Israeli government, the hardliners in the Israeli government want the war with Iran. They've wanted the war with Iran because they believe that it's inevitable, right? So when you're entering into negotiations with people who think that a war is inevitable and it has to happen, and that preemptive striking and that taking the war to the enemy is the only reasonable action, everything they do in the lead up is going to be towards that end. And you can even talk about the peace deals between Iran or the Palestinians and Israel too. When they had gotten close to two-state solutions, when they had gotten close to like actually dealing with a peace solution between the two peoples, both sides, extremists on both sides, have sabotaged those things because they don't want peace. They want conflict. And it's on both sides. It's not just the Iranians. And so like a decent enough read is that Israel intentionally attacked the reactor, one, because it got one of their aims, which was it hurt their nuclear program, and the two was that it killed the talks and further spurred the conflict, right?
When did they attack the nuclear part?
I mean, you can look it up. It should be pretty, it's not even an attack. It was like a cyber attack. It was a sabotage thing that they did. You can look up that one.
Recently or like years ago?
It was years ago, yeah. And that was so again, Iran, I believe the timeline is once we left the agreement, Iran bumped up its enrichment, might have even bumped it up one more time, and then Israel, while Biden was talking with them, sabotaged one of their programs, essentially put like a computer virus into, I'm pretty sure it was a computer virus, if I remember correctly. And supposedly at the time said it knocked their program back like 3 years or something was the claim that they had, I think, made about that attack. But the immediate effect of that was, again, talks dead and Iran even more so increasing their enrichment procedures, right? So Iran, then at that point, and let me know if you read anything you want to correct me on any of those points.
That was 2010 when they did that cyber attack. So I guess it kind of coincides when they were at 20% enrichment at that time.
Yeah, and then shortly there-ish after, right, it then, I think, jumps up was what I think had happened.
Then several Iranian nuclear scientists were assassinated in 2010 to 2020.
Yeah, and there have been multiple attacks and different things that had happened. I want to say it was post Donald Trump. So the one I think I'm talking about would have been in 18, 19, like 21 or something.
Yeah. There was an explosion at the Nance enrichment facility in 2021, which was widely attributed to Israeli sabotage.
Yes. That's the one. And then afterwards, a couple of things happened. Again, escalation being an important term. And again, I think it's really important to preface these statements that I'm going to make in that the attack committed on Israel by Hamas is one of the most disgusting acts we've seen in modern day times. It was horrific, and should there is no justification for behaving in those ways, and there's no justification for the strategy that they sought to employ. But there is a direct through line through escalations. And again, the people that have been pulling the levers in Israel, the people in power in Israel, they have wanted and advocated openly for this conflict. And they have taken pains to ensure that this conflict does progress, right? And I believe that there are many Jewish people and many Israelis that will talk about Netanyahu in this way, and the hardliners of it's not like everyone in Israel is against the Palestinians. Like they had massive protests that were trying to say that like what they were doing needed to stop. Like there was huge support for peace inside of Israel, but the people and the hardliners of that government have been advocating for a pathway that has only one outcome, and that outcome is violence, right? And so you had the nuclear attack, right? You had us pulling out of the peace deal, and then you had the escalation of the enrichment on Iran's side, and then you also had the attack by Hamas on Israel shortly thereafter. Again, it in no way justifying anything that the Iranians did, but that is a factual timeline of what happened, right? So then we have the attack in Gaza. We then embark on the massive campaign that Israel did, which like anyone who knew anything and saw what was going on, saw the attack that Hamas did. Like I remember seeing it and going, holy shit, like they're going to destroy Gaza. Like everyone who saw that knew that not even equivalency, right? Like they're not even going to come anywhere close to equivalency on this. Like they are going to try to demolish Gaza, right? And they did, right? And they kept going. And they've still kept going. Like the bombs are still falling in Gaza. The aid workers are still under attack. Like everyone talked about like there's a peace deal and like it's done and it's over. It's like, no, it is still happening in Gaza. There's just like, as always happens with these administrations, even more batshit crazy stuff has happened. And so we don't even focus on the insanity that is going on inside the strip. Or I think just recently I saw Israeli settlers, I think, burned down an entire encampment of Palestinians in the West Bank, I think, right? Like you could just we do a whole massive podcast on the Israeli occupation and the settler attacking of Palestinians inside of Israel and the horrors of that, the stories of rape from Israeli soldiers on Palestinian women. Like there are levels to this that are heinously interconnected and corrupt, right? And again, the conflict at its core is Israeli and Iran, right? Like America is involved in that we are allied with Israel, in that we support Israel for doing many good things. Like Israel is culturally very similar to us. Israel is far better treating of female rights, of like being a general human rights kind of a country in comparison to Iran or Saudi Arabia, right? Now it gets a little sticky when you start talking about the way Israel treats Palestinian people within its country or its neighbors, right? And that starts getting a little bit squashy.
Right.
But as far as like Israel runs its own country, they're very similar to us, right? And so like we feel a very similar religious connection to them as well, because most people in this country are Christian. There's a lot of Jewish people in this country. Those two religions, it's funny because like Islam comes after Christianity, right? But for a myriad of reasons, right? Most Christians reject Islam, but still, the lineage goes Judaism, Christianity, and then Islam in terms of like timeline. And so, and each one kind of, it's funny because like Judaism technically rejects Christianity because Christianity claims that, Jesus Christ did certain things and that you need to, accept these, all these sorts of things. So Israel rejects Christianity, but Christianity accepts, Judaism kind of as its origin, right? And then Islam is beneath Christianity in like the hierarchy of like the timeline, right? And so like the connection, like they actually like Jesus Christ, they believe in Jesus Christ. Like there's a whole like very interesting connection web between the various religions, right? But to circle back to the point I think that I'm trying to make, which is we saw these escalations going. Attack on Gaza happened, the war then happened, and then we have Donald Trump come back into office, right? Essentially on the back of all of these things, right? And on the campaign trail, he was making the exact same claims. He's saying, sleepy Joe Biden can't make a deal. This is insane. Like he's so retarded. Like any idiot could do this. Like an infant could come in here and make the deal. It's the fact that it's Biden. Kamala Harris would be a tragedy. Like shitting on everyone, saying, I am the only person. I'm against all of these foreign wars. I'm against these interventions. I will bring peace. Give me the Nobel Peace Prize. I've solved 50 conflicts. I've saved thousands of people. Put me in office. I will do it. I'm the one. I can do it. Repeatedly. Again and again and again. He gets into office, and the tact that he takes is maximum pressure. And you can look that up, real thing. The way Trump and his administration view foreign policy, and you can look at the way Marco Rubio talks about it, you can look at the way they do it in South America, you can look at the way they do it in Europe, the way they treat their allies, right? The way they talk about Greenland, right? Their global politic is to say, we are America, we have more money than you, we have more guns than you, you have to do everything we say, and if you don't do it, we will fucking kill you. That is the entirety of their diplomatic message that they send to the world. And they've done it repeatedly. So they come into office on the back of all of this aggression, and what do? How do you de-escalate, right? How do we get to a point where we're not going to go to war, where we're going to chill Israel out, we're going to bring Iran to the table, we're going to try to talk about these things, right? What do you do, right? Like, how do you get to that end? And Trump and his administration's goal is to ratchet up the pressure, right? We're going to put even more pressure on the Iranians. We see weakness, right? We saw the fact that when Iran launched on Israel, they couldn't do shit about it. We saw that when we attacked their nuclear silos, they couldn't do shit about it, right? This is a injured animal, and we can smell it and we know it, and they don't have the card. Like Donald Trump talking to Zelensky, you don't have the cards, right? It's a fucking game to him, and it's always been a game to him, and he thinks he has the upper hand, and when he has the upper hand, it is not in him to give up any ground, right? The problem with that is it's just more escalation. It continues the escalation process. It continues to ramp up pressure, right? All the way up until you enter into these negotiations. You have what is his name? It's Kushner and Witkoff, Steve Witkoff. I want to say were the people that were doing the
Yeah.
negotiating.
Those are his top negotiators, I believe.
Yep. Which I won't even get into the fact that they're not actually diplomats, that they were not trained to do any of this, and that there are actual diplomats who've spent their lives talking about these issues and have been trying to bring peace into this region, right? And Witkoff and Kushner are not those people. They might be very skilled at making deals. They might be very talented in their own right. I'm not saying they're not, but it is a fact that they are not diplomats. They were put there by Donald Trump because of the way they view things and the connection to him. Donald Trump also slashed the shit out of diplomacy across the goddamn globe, which is another thing that we can talk about. And like literally like made diplomats, like condensed diplomats so badly that even during this piece, I've heard stories coming out that like a huge problem is all of the Americans living in these areas that are now trying to get the fuck out because war is breaking out all over the fucking region. They can't get out, and we can't organize evacuation routes because we don't have diplomats because we fucking fired them. Like the layers of stupidity that exist in what has happened is extraordinarily fucking up. But again, I don't want to tangent too far away from the main point here, which is again, they go in, they ramp up pressure. And in the meeting, right? So you had, and I think you in some of the text we were talking about it, Frank. The deal, when the deal falls apart, right? Witkoff talks about how the Iranians came in and said we have the unalienable right to enrich essentially however much we want. I think is roughly the quote. And then Witkoff, being ever the de-escalator and person who wants to remain rational in situations and try to talk about, okay, well, let's okay, maybe we can talk about a different area, and then we'll slowly bring this to a place where we can agree. Said we have the unalienable right, I think, to kill you in your tracks, was what he said back to the Iranian person, which is perfect de-escalation techniques, right? Like that's what you do when you try to de-escalate, right? And so like the talks go like that, but even with that interaction, right? Witkoff is souring on it. He's telling Donald Trump this is not going to work. He's telling Donald Trump the Iranians are not going to slow down the nuclear weapon. He's telling him that he thinks they're biding for time. They're going to sprint right to the nuclear weapon. All these things, which I'll get into some of
Kind
why
of
I
have to
think
take them at their word when they say that.
I'll get into that, but because I'm almost at the end, I'll finish this and then we can circle back to whatever you want. The Iranians coming out of those meetings, right, were talking about how good they felt the negotiations were going, right? Negotiations are good. They're continuing to go. The Iranians were not coming out and saying, fuck you, we're not doing this, right? They were coming to the table and they were negotiating. Negotiations were happening, right? And they were continuing to happen. The Iranians didn't come in and say, Witkoff, fuck off, we're not talking to you, we're going to do whatever we want, go to hell, we're building a bomb. Like that did not happen. They did not say that. And what ended up happening was kind of like in 2015. The people that walked away from the negotiations was us. It wasn't the Iranians. The Iranians didn't walk away from those fucking negotiations. Donald Trump and the administration made the call that no negotiations would be of any kind of use here, and we need to attack. And so attack they did, right? And there's lots to get into here, but like just pure timeline wise, right? We in Israel launch a massive attack on Iran. We kill their leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. We kill shit tons of their generals. I believe we killed most, if not all, of the people that were negotiating. So, like, in the Game of Thronesian Red Wedding style, we invite the diplomats to come and talk and then slaughter them and kill their leader. And then we tell the people, we go, "Hey, Iranians, rise up and take over your country. We've given you this opportunity. We've given you the opportunity to take back your country," right? So we're saying all of these things publicly, knowing apparently
majority of the people don't like the Ayatollah.
we don't like them. They absolutely don't. There's tons of data to show that there's a bunch of people that don't like the Iranian government. The Iranian government is not and like I said in the onset, I have no love for the Iranian government. I love the Iranian people. I've known some Iranian people. They're fucking awesome. The culture seems rad. Like historically, like contributions to science and literature and like so many reasons, the Iranian people are an amazing group of people. The government is horrific, and the people in general do not like it, from what I understand. Problem is, not liking something and having both the willpower and the ability to overthrow something are two very different things, right? And you can go and you can listen to anyone who is involved in any military actions over the years, involved in regime change operations. There has never been a time, and in expert after expert's opinion, there never will be a time where you can execute regime change with bombs alone. We've tried it. It has never worked. It never will work. Trump administration fucking knew it. And even now they're talking about it, and you can go and look at like their reporting on this. Like they knew that the likelihood of the Iranian government falling was extremely low, and yet they're making these statements. They're going out there and they're trying to stoke the fire because hey, it might happen, right? The problem is, again, if you want to negotiate at all with that government, right? If your own internal shit is telling you like they're not going anywhere, like they are not going, it doesn't matter how much the people hate them. No matter how many bombs you drop on them, they are so in control of that government that they're not going to go anywhere. You've got like two options. One of those is negotiate with them, and the other one is to send in your troops and occupy them and try to force regime change from the inside out, like we did in Iraq, like we did in Afghanistan, like we've done countless times in countless areas, and it's never fucking worked. Or you have to try to deal somehow diplomatically with these people. And what part of any of that by Donald Trump has even remotely helped the diplomatic efforts that need to be undertaken in this region, right? Unless you're going to either genocide the Iranian people off of this planet, or you're going to occupy them for an unending amount of time, there is no solution there other than diplomacy, right? Like it's simple fucking math, right? So that's the timeline, as far as I'm aware of it. Those are the some of the key things as far as I'm aware of it. One of the things I would circle back to, and unless somebody else wants to jump in on any of this, you talked about you got to take them at their word, right? Witkoff, Kushner, these people saying like the
Talk
Iranians.
about the Iranians when they say that they have 11.
No, I know. Yeah, that you got to take them.
They could make 11 nuclear warheads.
So multiple things on that I would love to state. So number one, the enrichment, I think it's at 60, right? Is roughly
60.
Yeah, roughly. So I'll back it up a little bit again, and then we'll go back into this, and we can see where we land. So again, Donald Trump, and you can look this up too, Frank, if you want to. Donald Trump is the single biggest liar of an American president that has ever happened. Like factually, he lies more than any president who has ever existed. It might even be all of them fucking
stats on
combined.
that? I want to see.
Yeah, you can look it up. Is Donald Trump the most lying president? And you will be shocked with how fucking terrible this is. Like, and again, factually incorrect, just blatant fucking lies, right? So, and you can look that up in the background as we kind of get through this. But so, back when we attacked the Iran nuclear facilities, right? What did Donald Trump say about that? Do you remember the specific words he used repeatedly?
I didn't catch it. I was looking it up. What was the question?
What did Donald Trump say after the bombings we did of the nuclear facilities in Iran?
Oh, you're talking
wiped
about
out.
the The ones we did like 6 months ago or something.
Yeah, prior to
The Bunker
Operation Epic
Busters.
Fury, which like I don't even go into the fucking retarded naming convention he used, but before that, before Operation Epic Douchebag, when we attacked the fucking
He didn't come
the
up with that name, by the way. He chose it from a list of names.
I guarantee Hegseth did. I fucking guarantee Hegseth.
Well, he was
did.
talking
I
about it
just
during
on
a rally. He said that they gave him a list of 20 names, and he's like, "All these look boring except for that one."
Have you heard?
It's that scene from the Simpsons movie with Wolfstein, the president, right? Who's like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the guy gives him the options, and it's option 1, 2, and 3, and it's like the big packet, and he's trying to pick which one, and then the big line was, "I was elected to lead, not to read," and he picks whatever the fuck number he has and continues on with the thing. But
Have you heard they apparently there's a lot of evidence that suggests that it's an Iranian like misinformation tactic, but a whole bunch of people, and the reason is they're saying that Trump has been blackmailed by Israel for this, and so they're calling it Epstein Fury.
Oh yeah. I have heard. Apparently, there's a bunch of Iranian misinformation right now, just in the Epstein sphere, and they've been pushing a lot of shit, video and photos of like Trump with underage women and shit, all coming out of like Iran, and like getting massive views and like exposure in the American population, and like getting picked up by some people. Yeah, that's tragic and ridiculous.
Yep.
But yeah, no,
worth knowing.
Yeah, we bombed the nuclear silos, and immediately, I mean immediately, the bombs fell. Donald Trump came out and he said, "We successfully destroyed their entire nuclear program." And he said it much more ridiculous than I just said it, because that's a calm, rational statement. He said it in the most Trumpian kind of bombastic way. People then said, "Hey, how do you know that? You literally just dropped the bombs. Like, you literally just dropped the bombs. We've not gone in there. We have no sources verifying any of this." And Donald Trump's like, "Nope, I know it. We did it. We like the bombs. They blew it up. Everything's gone. Iran has no nuclear capabilities whatsoever. I have solved the problem." Go back and watch videos of him saying this shit again and again and again. Fast forward to 60% enrichment. Fast forward to Witkoff and them telling Donald Trump that they have the imminent ability to create 10 nuclear weapons, supposedly, right? Even before I poke holes in that, there's a contradiction, right? Somebody's lying, right? Either Donald Trump is Donald Trump is 100% full of shit, but he was either lying back when he said he destroyed all the nuclear capabilities, or he's lying about the overstatement of the nuclear abilities. And probably it's both. He lied about his complete destruction of that, and he's way overestimating their actual ability to create a nuclear weapon. From what I've seen, there's a term called like 0 month or something. It essentially means that like were Iran to decide to make a nuclear bomb, and they went all out, they threw everything at it, and they're like, "We're gonna psychotically what's that word where you kill yourself, suicide, get a bomb and launch it at somebody," right? It could take from the estimates I saw, up to like a month, 3 weeks to a month, somewhere in the time range, which is scary. That's a scary fucking stat, right? But I will remind you, and we go back to the beginning of this when I was talking about Iran using these things as political footballs, right? And let's just look at the ultimate historical context of all of this. Who is the only country who has used a nuclear weapon? That would be us, twice in combat, right? We have used nuclear weapons. Who has nuclear weapons? India, Pakistan, North Korea, right? 3 very, we would call them, I mean, maybe we would be nice to India and Pakistan and not call them psychotic, but their hatred towards each other rivals that of Iran and Israel. Like, if you know anything about the relationship between Pakistan and India, the hatred, the cultural, the religious issues run tremendously deep between those two nuclear-powered countries, right? And yet they have never launched a nuclear bomb at each other. North Korea, the single most insane government on this planet, bar none. The Iranians, the Afghans, like no one comes close to the level of insanity that North Korea is, right? No one even comes close to the shit that they've said. You talk about like Iran talking about death to America and all of this shit, right? When you listen to what the Iranian government has said, they have never said they're going to get a nuclear bomb. They have never said that they're going to blow up America with their nuclear weapon, right? Radicals have, people in the country have, people in our government say that they're saying this under their breath and behind the things. But like, if you were going to compare Iran to North Korea has openly said that shit. North Korea throws it in people's faces. North Korea has nuclear and launches ballistic missiles over South Korea into the water between Japan and South Korea. They're mortal fucking enemies, right? And yet, we've never had a nuclear exchange between North Korea and South Korea, two nuclear powers, or us, nuclear weapons, right? So the idea that Iran its sole existence, and again, the Iranian people are not fucking stupid, and neither are the people in control of Iran. Like, if you go into this thinking that the people that control Iran are retards and backwards and are literally suicidal in their entire country, that the only thing that they're attempting to do with their existence is to build a nuclear weapon, one nuclear or 10 nuclear weapons, and then what are they going to do with them? What are they going to do with these 10 nuclear weapons? They're going to launch them. They're going to launch them, and every single one of those motherfuckers get shot out of the air, right? Every single one of those motherfuckers. So they're not going to do that, right?
Maybe it's because the countries that that do have the nukes right now aren't as linked to terrorism as Iran is.
So North Korea is tremendously linked to a lot of terrorism, and North Korea and South Korea, the agitation between those two are very, very strong and storied, right? You can make an argument that Islamic extremism is kind of like a creature of its own, right? And you would be valid to talk about that, right? And that's a whole discussion in and of itself. The ideas of the extremist versions of, and you could even like argue that it's not even extremist Islam, it's just like what Islam is, which I would argue about Christianity and Judaism and a lot of other fucking religions out there. But no doubt, Islam today, when you look at the way the religion is used in the countries, especially in the countries in which that religion is in power, they are that is the most grotesque version of religion we have kind of active today in our world. And they use the most horrific justifications to commit the most horrific acts of violence. You can look at, and this again extends to some of our fucking allies, right? Because you want to talk about morality, right? Because if we're going to talk about, oh well, Iran is more propensity, right, to do terrorism and to commit these horrible acts, and might be like religiously genocidal to the point of killing themselves and everyone around them, right? In the suicide bombers and all the other stuff that they utilized, right? Like if you look at the way the religion is used by the Iranians, and then you look at the way the religion is used by the Saudis, in many regards, the Saudis are worse, right? And have been worse, right? Like another little pop quiz. Who was implicated in 9/11? What countries were implicated in 9/11? It wasn't fucking Iran. It was Saudi Arabia. It was the religion practiced in Saudi Arabia by many of the royal people in Saudi Arabia. It was not Iranians, because the Iranians, their version of Islam is different and has not had the specific antagonism towards us. And again, that's overstating it on my part, because there's plenty of acts of terrorism that Iran has done, including taking the jets, bombings, killings, all sorts of things. But Saudi Arabia and Iran are both horrifically repressive. They love to kill people. They love to execute people. They love to oppress women's rights. Both of them have very similar laws when it comes to like, what do they call it? Essentially the fact that like no woman can go anywhere without the consent of the household man. Essentially, like they can't go anywhere. They can't do anything. They have no rights. They have their property under Islamic law. Right. And you can correlate that back to the religion, because it's all dictated by religion. It's all dictated by Islam and the various edicts and things in the Quran.
And the Saudis have nukes?
I don't know if the Saudis do have nukes. Frank, maybe you can check on that one. But my point in that isn't so much that they have nukes, but that they have found, even with their religious extremism, which is no less than Iran's, right? Their goal is not to destroy the world. right? And I don't think you can have a realistic view that isn't just grounded in racism and Islamophobia, that Iran's only goal is to destroy the world. Like, I think that's an extremely childish view of looking at the Iranian government and people and everything that they haven't done. Now, you back him into a corner, you know, I don't know, but like, when you look at the way Iran has used these things, the political positioning, the intent to try to exert power and control over the region, their aim is not ultimate destruction of everything, right? So even if you believed that, though, right, even if you believed that they were genocidally obsessed with jihad to the point of destroying themselves in the attempt to destroy everyone, let's say we believe that. Let's say they decide to sprint, which as of right now, apparently we've done nothing to stop their ability, right? Like, if you listen to the reports, like, yeah, we hit the nuclear facilities. They're still enriched at 60%. They still have the material. Supposedly they have facilities we haven't gotten into. They could be doing it right now, right? Like, are we going to send in troops, right? Like, is that how we're going to get this done? And even now, like, so, like, what happens if 6 months go by and they don't use it, right? Was it just like incorrect, right? Like, and even if they do, my point is, what are they going to do with it? Are they going to put it on a ballistic missile and fire it off? No, they're not, right? So they're going to have to get it in like a backpack nuke, which I don't even know if that shit's not just like entirely Hollywood, that you can put a nuclear bomb in a backpack. Seems really retarded and like not a thing you can do. I might just be completely non-scientific on that fact, you know, but like getting some amount of it somewhere and then exploding it in some sort of a terrible terrorist act, right? Like, that's probably the most realistic thing that could happen. But even then, right, like, it takes time and effort to do all of those things, right? And with the full knowledge that if Iran nuclearly exploded something in Israel or something in America, right, it is the last card they have to play. So if you only give them that card, that's what they're going to fucking play. And not to, again, I know I shitted all over Trump for using the card metaphor. Now here I am employing a game and employing a metaphor as well. But it's true, right? Like, if you back them into a corner and the only option they have is to do that, that's the time when they're going to do it. So if your goal is to stop them from ever doing it, you don't put them in that position, right? Because when they're in that position, that's the only thing that they're going to have to do, right? When you kill Ayatollah Khamenei, and in that explosion, supposedly, you kill, you maim, apparently, so, which, again, just like, so many things I want to get angry and yell about, but I won't. Like, the way Hegseth talks about the son of an Ayatollah Khamenei, which, again, I have no love for. It's just so, and everything Hegseth does is so beneath the office that he holds. It is fucking disgusting the way he speaks, the like the use of pop culture to glorify the slaughter of people, which ended up in the fucking killing of children, right? He has zero tact. He has zero responsibility for the position that he is fucking in. And it degrades every time he opens his goddamn mouth. It degrades our military. It degrades our standing on the fucking world. And again, he talks about, like, you know, I forget what slurs he's been talking about with the guy, and like, we did this to him, we did all that shit, right? They also killed his wife and his children, I believe, in that attack. Nah. And he's now in control of the fucking country. So you have a man who, you've killed his father, you've killed his wife, you've killed his children, you're insulting him openly, and you're hoping he doesn't decide to suicidally bomb people? Like, that's your fucking strategy? That's what we're doing? Like, that's the big fucking brain idea that we had? Like no part of this has been thought out past day 2, right? And that's my biggest gripe with all of this. And again, like, we can go back into, like, we had to do it, push into a corner. My problem with it, right, is even, how do I say this? We were sold this bag of lies with WMDs in Iraq, right? So to try to pretend that we're not giving the same bullshit lie again to justify hostile actions, you have to be so retarded to assume that everything coming out of Donald Trump's mouth and his administration is accurate about their estimation of if they were or were not going to actually get a nuclear bomb and use it, right?
I mean, at best, we won't know until like 20 years from now. At
Correct.
best, if
Right.
it comes out.
Correct. Right. And to not at least have a healthy dose of skepticism about this, about all of those inconsistencies, about the entire way that they handled their diplomacy, about the pulling out, about the constant stalking of people in his administration that have been openly, and I mean openly, advocating that the only solution to the Iran problem is ultimate war, and then pretend like this wasn't the inevitable conclusion of those policies, those people, and the direct intention of our government to force this conflict. Right.
So, what do you think? Well, I mean, what do you think his real reasoning is?
So I think two things on that. Number one,
Strategic
said this
oil
to you guys.
reserves.
was that?
Oil was probably
Well,
one of
oil's
the main.
well, I mean, the oil's a thing, and like that's all.
I think it could also be like another dig at China as well, because I think
there's like, so first off, there's multiple geopolitical reasons, right? There's Russia, there's China, there's geopolitical reasons.
where's Iran's allies in all this?
Well, there's supposedly Trump just talked to a reporter, and I heard the interview, and they were like, "Do you think Putin's funding and helping Iran?" And he's like,
Oh, he
yeah,
is.
yeah, I think they are. And he's
Well,
like,
there's articles that that they are helping.
no,
fund. They're just not getting
What the
involved
article
like
said, and then
directly.
Trump came out and said, "Oh, I don't think that they're helping." Trump said that Putin wants to be helpful in the conflict with
he
Iran.
said many things. And the last interview, this is a problem with taking Trump, like one quote from Trump, because he'll say one thing in one interview, he'll say the exact opposite in the next interview, right? He does that every single time. And the latest interview that I saw was of him talking about Iran, Russia and Iran and the help that they are or aren't giving. And he said verbatim, or not, maybe not verbatim, but I'm paraphrasing here. Yes, they're supporting the Iranians. Yes, he believes that's the case. But we're also supporting the Ukrainians, right? And so like that's a thing, right? What he's talking about there openly, and probably very truthfully, is the Cold War that has been in effect for a very long time, and the way we have conflict with major powers, so China, Russia, us, right? We can't engage directly because we're afraid it will spiral out of control, and also we're as much as, like, again, I truly believe that America is the strongest military on the planet, but that still does not mean that we do not pick foes that are intentionally weak and easy to destroy, right? And you would be dumb to not do that, right? Like picking a fight with somebody who could maybe rival you is dangerous and scary and could spiral out of control, right? So picking on small kids and kicking them in the face repeatedly in front of the entire class so that nobody fucks with you, right, is a strategy that's employed by school children and also employed by governments to try to scare everyone from fucking around with you, right? And that's the same thing that happens. You have these geopolitical fights where, again, you've got Ukraine, you've got you get Afghanistan multiple times, the Russians first, and then us. You have Vietnam, you have Iran, you have all Iraq, you have all of these South American locations, right? All of these third world countries, we would call them, that are battlegrounds for the conflicts of the larger countries, right? The ultimate fight actually isn't with them; they're just being used for their relevant
proxy wars.
Yes, proxy war. That's part of it, right? And so you asked like what I think he's doing. To me, my read on the situation is there's two sides to this. There's what Trump wants and the reason Trump does things. And then there's his cabinet and the war hawks, you can call them, in his administration and what they want, right? I truly believe this. And you can look through all of Trump's history, you can look through every bit of it, right? And you would struggle to find ideas or ideologies that Trump actually cares about, right? The thing that he cares about is power and money, and generally speaking, only as it refers to himself. Even when he speaks about America, he's generally speaking about himself, or he's using it as like a third person metaphor for himself, right? Like you can look at this one. There's the Joe Rogan thing. Like you can watch Joe Rogan talk. I think it's Tom Segura and Joe Rogan talking about the plaques that Donald Trump has put around the White House underneath the other presidents. That like it's like a picture of Reagan, and then it's like Donald Trump was a great fan of Reagan as a plaque, and then underneath that plaque, Reagan also loved Donald Trump, and then Joe Biden the worst president in the history of America, like the most insane dictator nonsense. And even Joe Rogan, Tom Segura, like, this is fucking batshit crazy. Fucking, what's his name?
He put like
Big-
an auto pen signature instead of Biden's picture and shit.
Like it's the most batshit, the only, and that's what he cares about. That's what he cares about. Like that's him. That's his true care and passion, is that, right? Image and power and money, right?
That's so immature. It's mind blowing.
It's
Yeah.
wild. It is, and like I don't want to go too far down like some other points, but like talking about how much fucking Hegseth degrades that office, how much Donald Trump degrades the presidency. Like, first off, and I'll just have to talk about this before we talk about the fact. Do you all remember the tan suit fiasco of Obama? Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever heard about this?
The what?
And they called it like tan suit gate. I'm fairly certain you can look this shit up. It's unbelievable. So Barack Obama, at some point in his administration, came into like the Oval Office and he was wearing a tan suit, right? Like it was a suit, but it was like a tan suit. The Republicans lost their minds. You can go back and watch Fox News. You can watch the senators. You can watch congressmen going, it's insane. How could he think that's acceptable? It makes us like, it degrades the president. You don't wear a tan suit. That's absurd. Like, just like for weeks, they went on about this, right? Fast forward to Donald Trump, right? And notwithstanding all of the other crazy bullshit, but you have one of the most important moments possibly in American modern history where we're, for all intents and purposes, going to war with Iran. And how does he tell the American people, right? How does he, as the president, with all the gravity of that situation, like how do we get this to the people in a way that lets them know I'm taking this serious, right? It's in the basement of fucking Mar-a-Lago, shitty lighting, and he's wearing his bright white baseball cap with USA tattooed over the side of it, 4547 on the side, the same fucking hat that you can go to his website and buy because he's fucking I'm trying not to get too angry, but he wears that, right? So he's wearing a baseball hat indoors to announce that he's selling to announce a war with Iran, right? If any other president on the planet did that, like they would literally be hung for treason. Like the disrespect, the utter disregard for decorum or anything even remotely relating to like, hey, maybe I should take this serious, right? Is wild. And he even did. I saw him. There was they're bringing home dead soldiers. Everyone's standing there. He's saluting them. He's got the same shit-eating hat on his fucking head. He didn't even take the hat off when they're unloading the dead soldiers from the fucking plane. Like, like you can't make this up. Like this, like that's what he cares about. That's what he is. That is the only thing he cares about, right? So to bring that back into like what he's doing, what he cares about is that anything that gets him more of that is what he wants to do. When you look at who's in charge of his policies, who's in charge of like the direction of the campaign, of what they're doing, of like the general strategies that they invoke, he is in the past and even presently, he's stocked it very heavily with people who have been advocating for a very long time, like two foreign policies, as far as I can tell, which is it borders on kind of what you were talking about, Frank, which is peace through strength, right? Which is it's not their term, it's an older term. And peace through strength doesn't mean do what I say or I'll kill you. It just means always being in the position of strength, right? To be able to get what you want through nonviolence, right? The idea is not the second you have any problem with somebody, you go and attack them and make it known that if people disobey you, you kill them, right? That is not the policy. That is not the idea of peace through strength, right? Their version of peace through strength is that weakness being shown will always engender an attack. Like this is the core, I think, philosophical belief of most of the people in charge of the foreign policy decisions in the Trump administration. And what they advocate for and against is that in the past, our diplomatic efforts to talk and to get peace through coalition and through the UN and through all these other things essentially amounts to weakness and allows for enemies to gather strength and then attack us, right? And that the only way to achieve peace in America is to absolutely destroy your enemies in actual combat operations. And they've been advocating for this for a very long time. It's the same group that's been advocating for the action in Venezuela for like 30 fucking years, and Cuba as well. It's the same group that's been advocating for the action that we're now taking in Iran. Like they're literally, there's a checklist somewhere, and then check mark all these boxes of all these grievances that they're squaring and settling, right? And I do believe that they believe it, right? I'm not saying that they don't. Like they believe that strategy is what will safeguard America. They're doing it with the intent to safeguard America. And so when you see the Marco Rubios and some of the other people in those administrations and the Hexets and the other, even the Hexet little fucking bootlicker, but some of the other people that actually have policy ideas and have advocated for these things for a very long time, like they believe it. You know, I think they're horrifically wrong, but they believe it, and they believe it to the point of sabotaging legitimate, peaceful diplomatic processes in favor of their worldview, which is that the only solution to Iran is to kill them all. The only solution to Venezuela is to kill them all. The only solution to Cuba is to kill them all. The only solution to any of their problems is to kill them all. And when we're done killing everyone, everyone will know how scary we are and they won't fuck with us, right? And it's such a little man inferiority complex of a philosophical argument and a philosophical identity for like how you can defend yourself. And we could go into that. We could talk about like the differences between that and why I think that's a terrible fucking idea. But like that's not even Donald Trump. Like Donald Trump, it's not his ideology. He uses it because it makes him look stronger, and he likes that image. He likes what it does for all of the other aspects of his power and his image and his things, right? And so he gives the reins to them, and he will take every. And Donald Trump's great at doing this. Anything that goes right will be Donald Trump. I like to point like the white hat thing was funny, but like also I've never, and I talked to my mom about this, who's seen a lot more politics than I have in her life. In the past, right? Like let's say the FBI goes out and catches a criminal, right? Or uncovers a network, like the fucking the mob bosses or whoever, right? When they come forward and they talk about it, which essentially would be like Kash Patel, comes out, right? The way they used to announce those things and talk about it would be like the first thing out of the mouth. Thanks to the tireless effort of the FBI agents, we have uncovered this plot, and we are going to do our best to make sure these criminals are brought to justice. It was all very boring. It was all very like, you know, the men and women of this law enforcement, you know, what makes it run, end of story, go to a trial, do what you need to do. To see Kash Patel, and not just Kash Patel, Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth, all of these people who are in these positions of power, when they come out and they just fall all over themselves to jump on Donald Trump's dick as hard and as fast and as repeatedly as they can, to be like, instead of thanks to the thanks to Donald Trump's amazing leadership, his administration in the first of its kind action has uncovered the most horrific plot because of Donald Trump's unceasing belief in justice. Like everything they do is his ego and his image. And it's been repeatedly that. And no other president has ever done this, as far as I can tell. Like the level of egomania with Donald Trump is something that is on par with the greatest egomaniacs of all time, right? Like it's wild.
So you're saying that Trump tells him to stroke his ego?
No,
Like,
Trump,
when you go up there, you better make sure that you give me compliments, otherwise you're fired.
What Trump does is anyone who shows any amount of disloyalty, he fires, or he, in the political sphere, he primaries them and he gets them kicked out of office. So if you, and it's very, you look at this all up. Every Republican knows, and everyone in his administration knows, that unless you are pledging fealty constantly, you are in danger of losing your job. That's like a fact. And you can do all the research you want. Tell me I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong. It is facts. He doesn't tell them in so many words, and in much like a mob boss. And this was the same thing with all of his, you know, shady ass dealings that he's been involved with over these things. He does the same thing the mob bosses do, where it's like, well, but did Tony Soprano tell you to kill the man? And I was like, no, he didn't. He just didn't like that guy, and so I went and killed him, right? I was like, well, then he didn't tell you. Well, I have no responsibility in this. I didn't say the words. I didn't say you go kill him, right? So I can't be held guilty. Like, it's literally the mob, and he's in New York. He grew up in that shit. Like, that's his bread and butter. His bread and butter is shitty, seedy, backroom New York deals, mob style. And he rules like that. Like, this isn't fucking hidden. They do it in the goddamn open. And so, like, what they're doing, right, as far as my read can tell, is Donald Trump, that's what he cares about, that's what he does. And he uses the people in his administration to get more of that. And if he thinks it's advantageous, he will. And so I'm sure there's an insane logic in his brain for why this was justified, including some of the things they were saying, along with like midterms are coming up and like I need this image. And like you can go into the Steve Bannon style of the political brinksmanship that has defined this administration. So like, and I know Steve Bannon's been like kicked out by Donald Trump largely over a book that he wrote where he trashed Donald Trump and kind of said that like we were committing treason, or his son Donald Trump Jr. was committing treason or some shit like that, and they ended up falling out. But you can watch Bannon talk about this, and it's the same thing. They didn't stop implementing his policy, which is Bannon called it flooding the zone. I don't know if either of you have heard of this essential strategy, right? But what Bannon is advocated for, and like Roger Stone, who, if you don't know him too, he also like he's the one with the literally, like, again, you can't make this shit up. Roger Stone has a entire back tattoo, entire back, his whole back is Richard Nixon. He has a gigantic tattoo of Richard Nixon on his back. You can look it up. Wild. His favorite politician, right? The most corrupt president in American history, widely held as like the single most example of the corrupt president. The man who said, I'm not saying it's not illegal. I'm saying if a president does it, it means it's not illegal, right? Like everything about the way Trump has justified his behavior is Nixonian politics, in that I am the best thing for this country. Therefore, anything I do to stay in power justifies itself because that's what's best for this country. What I'm saying is, I, the president, whatever I do is the best thing for the country. So I cannot ever do anything wrong or illegal, right? Like that's the circular logic that Trump works on in his whole fucking administration. And then on top of that, like, so Bannon and these people, Roger Stone, all these people, their strategy, right, is to flood the zone, which what that means, right, is to vomit, and I mean vomit, misinformation, lies, hatred, conspiracy theories on a daily basis, as much of it and as fast and as high level as you can possibly get it, to just push it down the American people's throats. Because what happens is that we don't know what to focus on. Like we literally can't. There's so much coming at you that you don't know. And even if something is, and you're like, oh shit, you did that? Like, hey, let's talk about this. By the time you start talking about that, there's 10 other things being crammed down your fucking throat. And you can't breathe. You can't think. The news can't report on it accurately, right? And they try you try to speed it up. Okay, well, we got to cover these things quicker, right? And so you start covering these things and you make mistakes. And then they're like, ha, 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 you're fucking making mistakes. Look at this. They're lying about shit. More lies, more bullshit, more fucking conspiracy theories, right? It is not a quirk of these people. It is by design. It is how they have manipulated the American people for as long as they've been in power, right? And they do it better than
they. You mean who exactly?
Again, like Bannon was, I think, one of the first people that really kind of pushed this ideology. And so, like, presidents have lied. Obama lied. Biden lied. Hillary Clinton lied. Like, and again, I have problems with all these fucking presidents. Like, and this is my problem with MAGA and a lot of these people. Is like I critique Democratic presidents. There are many things that they do that I think is horrific. The assassination program under Barack Obama was horrific, right? Like. There are many things that I disagree with, and you can have legitimate concerns with all of these people, right? But in the past, even Richard Nixon, right? Like when you're caught in a bald-faced lie, you would either A, admit it, apologize, and move on, right? Or you would give up your position and move on, right? One of those two things, right? The great political trick that Donald Trump and his group, his campaign people, like all of them, it's the full group, what they did was realize that if you push this as hard and fast as you can, they won't be able to breathe, right? And it was a gamble because like they didn't know that that was going to work, right? Because no one had really done that before. Everyone had lied to some extent, or you missed, or you overstate, or you do some things here and there. But to intentionally, strategically vomit bullshit at people was not something that was proved, right? And so, like taking it was a, if you want to take a really gross look at it, it was a genius level move in terms of how you get people's attention, how you keep people's attention, how you control the narrative, and how you act on people's emotions rather than their logic or any policy position they give a shit about, right? And like they're experts at doing this, and they've been doing it for the entire time they've been in office, right? And so the thing is, like, if anyone cares to look, it's not hidden. Like, it's not a conspiracy theory to say that. They say it openly. They talk about this openly. Like when Donald Trump posts an image of Barack Obama as a chimp or whatever the fuck that was, like, you know, when Donald Trump posts, you know, or goes on live TV saying they're eating the dogs, right? It's not just bald-faced like lies and race baiting and hate speech. It is intentional because it's more vomit being thrown down your throat so that people who have general morals or concerns bite on it. And then 10 seconds later, it's like, attack from Iran. We're going into Venezuela. Transgenders in your bathroom. There's a school somewhere that's giving kitty litter boxes to children who identify as cats. Right? Again, demonstrably false. Also repeated by congressmen and senators. Like this is not a conspiracy. This is a factual strategy that they've employed. And if you care to look at it, you can see it for yourself. You know, and it's right out in the open. So. That would be, long story short, the answer, right? The reason they're doing these things in Iran is a combination of Donald Trump being in control of this shit, and the only thing he caring about is himself and his power, and a group of war hawk people whose philosophy is power through violence, not power through strength. And they have been and continue to be hell bent on exercising that philosophy out in the world. I and a lot of people think it's a fucking tragic and doomed to fail strategy, but it is where we're at. And as I said at the onset, and I'll just bookend these statements by saying I am an American, and I hope I'm fucking wrong about all of this. And I'm hoping that Donald Trump is actually intelligent and is playing 6D chess and somehow threads some imaginary needle somewhere and is able to stitch the Middle East together and a utopia emerges and we don't go into a 30-year war. And we don't, and like, it's hard for me to say this because, like, even right now, we're already seeing terrorist acts being committed on American soil. Like we just, like, I don't know if you guys saw this, but then, like, there's just been, like, there was a shooting in, what's that?
That was bound to happen. That university, and then also the synagogue.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, we're like,
shooting in Austin.
We're resigning ourselves that this action that we took will have them. Americans will die. Terrorist attacks will happen. And what's the net benefit? Like, again, before all this shit started, Iran was in a box and we were keeping them in a box and trying to do this the diplomatic way. You can argue would eventually have ended up red, but you can't say it wasn't working because we hadn't seen a bomb. We hadn't seen, and you can, this is nothing you can pick on. We hadn't
kind
seen
of the point. You don't ever want to see the bomb.
No, yes. But also, if you're going to go by that justification, then go into North Korea, go into Pakistan, go into like a bunch of countries in Africa, go into Yemen, go into South America, go wherever you have a disagreement where they might hurt you once and destroy their government, bomb their people, and continuously slaughter them until they do every single thing that you're telling them to do, right? If you think that will work, like, I can't have a debate with you because, like, it is so in and of itself retarded to believe that you can rule that way and that long term that will have a success. Like, and it goes against, like, everything America's ever, like, stood for as a country to behave that way. Like, the inherent empirical decision-making process that like leads into against the ideas of liberty and freedom and self-governance. Like, the idea that our role in this world is to go into every other country and kill them until they do what we say is literally the opposite of America. It's literally the opposite of everything that American values have been built on, you know? And how people can look at that and not see that glaring contradiction between the ideals of like the founding fathers and the way we structured our entire government and the policy of peace through violence is fucking baffling to me. But yeah. Anyways, that's my take on it, and I've taken up the entire time period of rambling on about this at fucking length. But and I'm sure if this ever does go out and people ever see it, I would never see the end of hate mail and shit being emailed or physically mailed to my address and shit like that. But yeah, I would stand by all of my statements, and I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong about shit, but I don't think any of those takes were wrong or super far out there. But
Well,
I'd be
I
interested
agree with the
if-
fact that we threw diplomacy out the window entirely, right? We gave them several chances. We gave them, what was it, like 60 days
Mhm.
to make a deal. They didn't make a deal, so we bombed the nuclear facility. We were
Mhm.
trying to negotiate with them to try to denuclearize, stop your enrichment, and then they came out and said that they're going to go to 90%. When they're
I don't think
surrounded
they said
by an
they were gonna
armada
I
of,
don't think they
of
said they were gonna
naval
go to 90.
ships.
Yeah, I don't think they said they were going to. I haven't read. I would love to read it, but I haven't read that they said they're going to 90. I read that they said that they had the right
They
to
had
enrich.
60%,
however-
and they said that they can get up to 90
they
within.
could get up to
and-
90, and that they had the right to do whatever they wanted
Right.
as a sovereign country. Which, again, if you're America, you kind of have to agree with on a basic principle level.
I feel
But,
like we
like-
need to watch that. Let's see.
I would be. It'd be willing to listen to it, but like I hear what you're saying, right? And the argument is that Donald Trump was actually engaging in diplomacy, right? Like that's the statement that I have a tremendously hard time believing, right? Because again, like if you just look at insularly at these talks, right? You're like, well, we gave him an option, right? First off, you're ignoring all of the history that led up to this and the pressures that built intentionally by our side and Donald Trump in particular when they backed out of the Iran deal, and then engaged in a policy of maximum pressure, right? Like their diplomacy was not even diplomacy. It was, here's the list of things you're going to do. Agree to them. And if you don't, we're going to kill you. That's not negotiation. That's not diplomacy. That's me saying, do what I tell you or I'll kill you. Right? Where was the negotiation on that? Was Trump going to negotiate on 50% enrichment? 40? Was he going to give in on any of those points? Or was he saying, you do this or I'll kill you? Because that's what Witkoff fucking told him. Like I don't. That's not diplomacy. Like you can call it that, but it's fucking not. You know what I mean?
Trying to find the video where he talks about it.
And again,
I just did a quick Google search. It said that they never officially said that they were going to 90%,
Mhm.
but people in the government claim, our government claim that.
From what I understand, Witkoff's statement to Trump wasn't that they said we're making a bomb, or wasn't that they said they were going to 90, and it doesn't even matter because 60 can create a bomb. So it sort of goes back to that idea of that I was joking about with you guys about where like when the Batman with Bane, where the guy's holding Bane out of the airplane, threatening to throw him out, and he's like, "Tell me what you know," and then he starts shooting the gun next to Bane's head, and Bane gets out, and he's like, "What even was that?" Like you were threatening to throw out of the plane. What does the gun do? Like you were already threatening to kill me, and now you're gonna kill me more, and like that's fear to me, right? Like 60% or 90%. Like if you can create a nuclear bomb with 60 or with 90. The threat is the bomb, right? So the threat's already there. It's not like even saying like we're at 60, we're gonna go to 90. Okay, like and they never said they were going to make a bomb. And again, Witkoff's statements to Trump were, I think they are using this as a stalling mechanism, and that they have no real interest in diplomacy. Which again means Witkoff's version of diplomacy, which was do what we say or we'll kill you, right? So what Witkoff tells Trump is they're not going to agree to this deal, and we're going to have to kill them because they will not agree to giving up their nuclear ambitions entirely, and just jumping on the American teat of nuclear power that they were offering them, however much of a great deal that might sound in principle, right? To be like, hey, we'll pay for your nuclear power, right? Or we'll pay for your power and build up your country. For Republicans in particular, who consistently talk about how the most important thing for like a man and for like a society is to not take handouts and is to build yourself up through your own initiative, to then be incredulous at a country that says, no, I don't want your free fucking handout, I want to do this myself, is wild to me. I get that you might disbelieve what they're saying, but you should at least understand the logic of why somebody wouldn't want a handout, especially from like somebody who's been shitty to you for your entire existence and you've had conflict with, to then turn around in one day and go, yeah, all that stuff. Actually, you know what? Fuck the nuclear weapons. We're wrong about that. My bad. Please give me money and give me nuclear power, and we'll just let it happen ever after. Like the childish level of diplomacy and negotiation that entails, if that really was the deal that they were trying to push on Iran, like it just is so apparently designed to fail. Which again, just it goes back to my statement that I have such a hard time believing that they were engaging in actual diplomacy. What they were engaging with was a show of diplomacy that was inevitably leading towards a conflict that they were actively preparing for as they were pushing all of the boats and all of the troops, and Israel was planning for this the entire time. You know what I mean? So.
Sure.
Well, let's watch Sean Hannity talk about it.
Let's see here. Well, I think this is the interview where the guy said all that stuff. About
Yeah, I'm
being in
sure.
the room.
Yeah.
And I know you. You are a deal maker. The president wanted a deal. You had a lot of latitude in that room. Bring us inside that room.
First of all, Sean, thanks. Good night, good evening, and thanks for having me. So, just to give you a little bit of a taste for how these three days of negotiations went, 3 separate times. Jared and I opened up with the Iranian negotiators telling us they had the inalienable right to enrich all their nuclear fuel that they possessed. That's how they opened up. We, of course, responded that the president feels we have the inalienable right to stop you dead in your tracks. They then went on to say that beyond the inalienable right to enrich, that was going to be their starting point. And Jared and I just sort of looked at ourselves flummoxed and said, well, we're really in for it now.
Well, let me get a little in the weeds if we can. My understanding was you got to a point where you were discussing enriched uranium at very low levels for civilian purposes, although I don't think they really need it because they have all the energy they'd ever want. But did that come up? Was that offer made to them?
We discussed with them 10 years of no enrichment whatsoever, and we would pay for the fuel, and it was flatly rejected. And the president sent us in there to have a good faith negotiation. Pardon me?
You're saying that we would give it to them? And they rejected that?
We actually had that, and they rejected that, which told us at that very moment that they had no notion of doing anything other than retaining enrichment for the purpose of weaponizing.
You made a statement last week, and when I heard it, and I've known you for a long time, and you are a friend, when you made the statement that, in fact, they may be a week away from possibly having capability, at that moment, I interpreted that to mean it's go time, it's over. Was I wrong? Was that the moment that it was over?
Well, I don't know if that exact moment it was over, but I know this. They have 10,000, roughly, kilograms of fissionable material. That's broken up into roughly 460 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, another 1,000 kilograms of 20% enriched uranium, and the balance is at 3.67. They manufacture their own centrifuges to enrich this material. So there's almost no stopping them. They have an endless supply of it. The 60% material, Sean, can be brought to 90%. That's weapons grade. in roughly 1 week, maybe 10 days at the outside. The 20% can be brought to weapons grade inside of 3 to 4 weeks. And let me say this, because I forgot this small little detail. In that first meeting, both the Iranian negotiators said to us directly, with no shame, that they controlled 460 kilograms of 60%, and they're aware that that could make 11 nuclear bombs, and that was the beginning of their negotiating stance. So they were proud of it. They were proud that they had evaded all sorts of oversight protocols to get to a place where they could deliver 11 nuclear bombs.
What I wouldn't do.
I feel like you have some thoughts, Mike.
Oh, I have so many thoughts. So, like, first off, none of that refuted any of what
You got 3 minutes, Michael.
I'll try to go. I'll make a couple points, right? So none of what he said refuted any of my points. Like, number one, if you're, first off, and I could be wrong, but I believe you can make a bomb with 60, right? So going from 60 to 90 doesn't really mean anything. But even, let's fucking say he's right and I'm wrong. Saying that at 20% enrichment, you could get to bomb in 3 weeks, right? And it's funny because, like, when Hannity's like, was that the reason we did it? And he's like, well, no. Like, that's not the reason we did it. It's hilarious because, no, they've been in this position for a long time, right? They've been within a month or so of getting to a bomb for a very long time, and they haven't done it. So to try to pretend now that they're going to do it is retarded, and even Witkoff knows that, right? Point one. Point two, right? Like, I don't have enough time, and my brain is misfiring on all of the horse shit that he just talked about. The idea that you're starting out a negotiation from Iran's point of view that he's pointing out, and like the crowning jewel of like culpability, like, oh my God, how could they possibly have done this? So Iran sits down with do you know Donald Trump's statement on the best way to deal, like how you come to the table? Anybody? The way you do it is you start at the highest possible level and you let them build you down a little bit, right? Donald Trump over and over and over and over again talks about only smart people negotiate this way. Only smart people go, this is the worst, the most possible thing that I will possibly inflict on you. But that's ridiculous. They wouldn't actually do that. Donald Trump wouldn't actually tariff all these people at these rates, right? He's just saying that because it's negotiation, right? So, like, they're literally using Donald Trump's negotiation strategy against him, and Witkoff's using that as some sort of a smoking gun to the fact that they wanted to get a bomb. Like, every word out of his goddamn mouth was horseshit, was curated to justify the action they took. And again, you're not offering. They laughed at the like, oh, you were going to give them free nuclear power, and they rejected it. Well, of course we had to kill them. Then clearly they're insane. Right? Like, there's zero other reason why they would not want to take a handout from America of energy, right? We can't even possibly comprehend that. Like, lies, bullshit and lies from Witkoff, bullshit and lies from the administration. The diplomacy and the deal making was doomed to die from the start because they wanted it to die. That's my read, and that shit didn't change that read even one bit. It in fact, all that did was reinforce every single point that I made, and I know nothing really else to say about that other than good job, Witkoff. Like, how fucking pathetic is that fucking interview? Like the saddest. You're such a good deal maker, right? Oh, I know you to be like the best deal. You had all the latitude in the world in that room, didn't you, Witkoff? It's like, yeah, we told them to do what we wanted them to do, and if not, then we had the right to kill them, and they didn't like it. Weird. Fucking
well,
sad.
I think like before they stopped them in terms of military force, like they wiped out their nuclear facility.
But they didn't. He just said they have the ability to do this, and Donald Trump said they did that before. We wiped them out before, and now. So what do you say?
That was like one of the 3 nuclear enrichment facilities that they had. That was the main one.
They've been hitting them, and they've been degrading them, and I do not doubt that. Right? Like, there is no world in which, like, the things we've done militarily has not affected Iran, but it hasn't crippled their nuclear capability. They still have all that fissile materials. They still have many facilities that we haven't touched or can't confirm that they're destroyed. They're still very much in control of their own government. Like, we've done nothing. Like, what have we done? We killed Ayatollah. We killed the people. We destroyed their navy. None of those things really matter because who's going to go into Iran to enforce any of this shit? Us? Israel? Right? Unless that's what Witkoff and Kushner and Trump are fucking advocating for, which at least fucking grow a pair of balls and advocate for it then instead of hiding behind this bullshit about how, like, oh, the fucking diplomacy broke down because they didn't want to take a free handout. Fucking cowards. Lying, shit-eating cowards. Every single one of them. That's my general read on that entire thing.
Would you agree that a world without a nuclear Iran is better than a world with it?
Yes. A world without nuclear weapons, a world without any nuclear weapons is better than we were working
That's not what I
toward.
asked.
No, I know, and I said yes to your question. If it was only Iran that we could get rid of, yes. Preferably everyone. We were working with Russia to try to get rid of all of the nuclear weapons. Do you know about this?
Yeah.
Do you know who walked away from that? You want to take a fucking guess? It's a fucking joke. It's I feel like the comedian from fucking Watchmen. It's a fucking joke. They don't want that. Peace through violence. That is their philosophy. That is their mentality. That is what they're executing on. And that's what you can demonstrably prove that they're doing.
That's what the U.S. has been doing for quite a long time now.
The many in the U.S. has been advocating for that for a very long time, and at times they succeed in holding that narrative, right? And that's how you get ISIS, and that's how you get failed states and narco terrorists and all sorts of terrible outcomes that we know come from this policy of peace through violence.
Well, I hope that at least, if anything, we get some form of lasting peace
I would
in
love
the
it.
Middle East.
I hope I'm wrong about all this shit. I hope that Donald Trump is fucking just like fucking threading needles and like seeing that, like that. What's that meme of the person with all the math whizzing by his face, and he's fucking, Rain Man in this shit, and we're gonna get to a peaceful Middle East where we're not in a prolonged conflict where we're trying to occupy Iran or it's suffering horrific terrorist consequences, which we already started to feel. I hope so too.
Yeah.
Preferably.
All right, guys, gotta wrap this up.
All right.
Next week we'll try to talk about something where it won't just be me vomiting words. Let's do more on Bigfoot. That sounds fun.